All right, number 3. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this so that I'm using a power. So I'll have 9 minus x squared raised to the 1/2 power. Okay, so let's identify our functions. And this again could be done with the product rule. So my first function is x squared. Okay. Now the second function is actually composed of layers. So the first layer is something raised to the 1/2 power, and then the inner layer is 9 minus x squared. So again, using our product rule, we know that to find the derivative, we take the first times the derivative of the second. So x squared is our first times the derivative of the second. So we know we have this layer that's raised to the 1/2 power. The derivative of that will be that thing times 1/2 raised to the negative 1/2 power. And then my inner layer, the derivative of that will just be negative 2x. All right, so we're going to multiply by the chain rule on our second function. So that means we're going to have 1/2 times that thing raised to the negative 1/2 power. So that thing is 9 minus x squared. And then we will multiply by the derivative of the inner function, which is negative 2x. All right, to that, we're going to add the second function just as is. So that thing raised to the 1/2 power times the derivative of the first function, which is 2x. Now comes the hard part, the simplifying. So let's look at this as it is. It's 2 terms. So here's the first term. So let's think about how that could be simplified. So what I've got is x squared times 1/2 times negative 2x. So that's going to be negative 1x to the 3rd power. Okay, so I have y prime equals negative 1x to the 3rd power. And then I have that 9 minus x squared raised to the negative 1/2 power. We've got the second part of this. Not much we can do with that. We can just say plus 2x times 9 minus x squared raised to the positive 1/2 power. Now let's look at this individually here. We know that this guy here, because it has a negative exponent, needs to be rewritten. So I'll have y prime equals, so a negative 1x cubed over 9 minus x squared, now that's raised to the positive 1/2 power, plus, so this is fine just as is. But if any of you have had me in the past, you know that I have kind of a thing I do. If I see one fraction in a problem, I'm going to make everything a fraction. I'd like to figure out if I can maybe simplify this a little bit more. So what I notice is that I could, as long as I had the same denominators. So I'm going to have to multiply this second function by 9 minus x squared raised to the 1/2 power over itself. Okay, now that allows me to get a single denominator that has, or a common denominator. So let's look at this a little bit more closely. I'm just going to write negative x cubed there instead of negative 1x cubed. I think we're okay with that. 9 minus x squared raised to the 1/2 power plus, now the 2x is good, but when I do this part here, it's no different, I guess I could say, it's really similar to if we were to take, say, y squared times y to the 3rd. We're going to add those exponents together because we're multiplying with the same base. So that's exactly what's happening here. We're multiplying with the same base, and that base just happens to be 9 minus x squared. So if we add the exponents together, 1/2 plus 1/2, that's just going to give us 1. So we'll have 9 minus x squared raised to the 1st power. Not going to worry about writing that 1st power there because it's not necessary. And then we have common denominators. At this point, we can write it as one big fraction. So we have negative x cubed plus, now I'm going to go ahead and distribute the 2x here as well, okay? So plus 18x minus 2x cubed. And that's all over 9 minus x squared raised to the 1/2 power. I think we can combine some like terms in the numerator. So we get negative 3x cubed plus 18x all over 9 minus x squared raised to the 1/2 power. Now, if you write it like this, I'm good with that. Some of you may notice that, you know, I could factor out possibly like a 3x, okay? If I factor out a 3x, then I could rewrite that as, and I'm going to flip, I could even factor out a negative 3x, let's say that, because then I would get x squared minus 6. And then if you prefer, you could write this all under a square root instead of having the 1/2 power. Okay, so really I'm okay with either of these last two answers. You know, this would be a little bit nicer, but it's not wrong if you write it like this.